Welcome, everybody. This is Signal and Insights, the podcast. I am Gabriel Velez, CEO of Crowd Answers. This is the show where we sit down with the people sharing how businesses grow, sell, and make smarter decisions. My guest today is Lafayette Crawford III. Lafayette is the founder and CEO of Crawford Business Consulting, a firm that helps startups and small businesses turn strategy into real working systems. The kind that actually move revenue. He's also just stepping into a VP of Operation role at Omni Insurance Services, a national insurance and financial service platform. He spent years inside insurance and financial services before launching his own firm, and his whole philosophy is built around one idea: transformation over transaction. Lafayette, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me, sir.
Thank you. Let's talk a little bit about your personal story and your background. You spent years inside insurance and financial services before you ever hung out your own, consultancy. Take me back to the beginning. How did you actually get?
So if I go back to the beginning of my transition into CBC, it would be at the tail end of about 8.5 years with one Fortune 500 organization and about two with another, helping them build out their distribution model. And they were all focused around supporting business owners, an entrepreneurial mindset, where they were looking to establish their own brick and mortar insurance agencies per se. And uh, toward the end, we were getting closer to COVID, and I had seen some major structural changes operationally with how they launched into newer territories. And I realized that the thing that I was most passionate about was supporting those new ventures, right? Supporting the enthusiasm of starting one's own business and using a large brand. And um, I realized from some cultural aspects within the organization, and it wasn't just one, it was kind of across industry. I thought and realized that it was much more important to find a way to support entrepreneurs and support those in the trenches that are kind of supporting these large organizations and being overlooked as the workforce. Um, and a little bit further, right after I left the organizations and left corporate and set out on my own, I began to focus on learning and developing in the consulting space because I had been consulting insurance agencies primarily, starting off in recruiting and then in training and training agencies, and then getting into the management of territories. And um, Man, I realized that in order to change the culture of these organizations, it would start with going outside of the industry of just insurance and financial services and start teaching one of the things that I'd learned, which was disruptive Lean Six Sigma. And disruptive Lean Six Sigma is essentially not looking just at the numbers, but worrying about the people, because any organization, any corporation is a collection of the people and their ideas. And we weigh heavily on the ideas and we give a tremendous amount of value to the ideas. But what we do is we overlook the people and look at them as replaceable and often in today's organizations, in today's economy, and the way that we look at business. So taking a step out and learning DLSS, I was like, you know what, in order to change the landscape, we have to actually help small businesses and help them establish a culture that is not just about them hitting their financial goals, but how they impact their community and how they actually transform and impact the lives that they do business with.
And that's
If
a
that's
great
a good answer.
approach. Yeah, I mean, it's like a putting the human in the center, and also understand that every organization shares traits with others, no matter the industry. At the end, it's the people who in the center that takes decision, and changing behavioral behaviors basically can shape different way to work. So KPIs and numbers align, but it's important to understand first what is the real motivation of people. So let's talk
Mhm.
about the core idea of transformation over transaction, right? Everything you put comes back to one line: this is transformation over transaction, and strategy systems success. What do you actually mean?
So the transformation over transaction actually came from a conversation with one of my consulting partners, right? As we grew out Crawford Business Consulting, we looked to identify subject matter experts outside of the general management space and begin a network of individuals that could come in and service client needs. In doing that, one of the clients that I, or one of the um, it's interesting that one of the consulting partners that I was working with, we were having a conversation and we were talking about some of the nuances and of capitalism. And we talked about, man, and the only way to kind of make this philosophy really work is if we look through a lens of transformation over transaction, right? Not focusing on what the dollar amount is in terms of the ROI, but what the actual return is to the community, right? So what is the transformation that's happening by us taking on this client? What is the transformation that is happening by focusing on coming up with a plan to help a business reach their goals if their purpose is genuine enough and if their purpose is impact, right? If it's impact first, that's when we can begin to see through that same lens. So the root of it is, listen, here are the costs of it. We have kind of a weighted scale. And when we do business with an organization that has a huge impact in terms of community benefit versus an organization that may just benefit the owner's financial, that actually helps us try to align best with the clients that we're serving. Right. So we see through the lens of impact first, and then we focus on the actual income.
That makes sense because maybe not all companies try to be a B Corp, right? Or, like a social responsible enterprises. But it's also very important to understand that not only financial indicators are the indicators of success of a company, but basically the transformation that the company provides. And it's good that basically you base your whole methodology around that. If that makes sense. Let's talk a little bit about turning the strategy into systems. Say a founder comes to you like overwhelmed because they have like a messy processes, maybe a not clear path, working in the business, not on the business, and revenue that it's all over the place. Walk me.
Mhm. Okay. So we're typically going to start in discovery, right? Not just asking a series of questions that's going to tell us, what their perspective is and what's not working for them. But yes, we start there so that we get that direct feedback of the operator or the person that's in the trenches. But then we take a high level approach in terms of looking at the business, looking at the data, and seeing what the business is telling us, right? Asking specific questions to identify bottlenecks and approaching it as if we are seeking solutions rather than seeing the problems to try to basically map out the most often that aren't in place are the standard operating procedures so that we can work on waste and work on streamlining those efforts, right? Efficiency as a founder can be tough, especially when you are juggling so many different hats or keeping so many balls in the air or spinning so many plates. So understanding, often it's better understanding the process by understanding the client experience and understanding the current delivery of services or products, which will allow us to help begin to set up systems that will help support the owner, right? So if there are things that we can automate, if there are things that we can problems that we can resolve by implementing workflows that give that business owner more time to do what they're passionate about, whether it be running their business or doing the marketing end or, working with clients, getting customer feedback, whatever they're passionate about is what we want to actually increase the time to allow them to do, because that's when you enjoy what you're doing more, right? Because motivation is very fragile when you feel like the old world is resting on your shoulders. So it's how can we help this person continue to run in their passion by looking at their systems and helping automate what can be automated and streamlined what may be essentially causing mess within the business flow.
That's great. And can you tell me maybe an example of a client that you can have been helping on that regard? And then what's the very first number you get them to watch? It would be good to have maybe one example or one story that where you can point.
Sure. Here, an example is, let's say a newer client in the Virginia market, exercise science, sports therapy, a lot of hands-on massage therapy and coursework as well, right? So this individual has a brick and mortar facility in the Virginia market, and essentially it's him and an assistant. Well, what we've identified is when it comes to his process, in terms of following up with clients after service, in terms of consistent communication to, um, you know, to nurture that relationship, to have that continued clientele, there were a lot of things that were inconsistent, right? Um, weren't always getting the review after the service, weren't or did not always have a follow-up email in place. So understanding the client experience or his clients or his customers' experience, what we were able to do to help increase that customer experience to a more informed and more engaged client of theirs by simply developing workflows that automates his standard process of pre delivery of service and then post delivery of service to continue to engage that client, that customer, to not only leave a review and talk about how great the experience was, but get into booking their next massage or their next therapy session in advance, right? What that did is take a tremendous amount of anxiety off of him. And I'm just saying from a personality standpoint, we all have different stressors and we're none of us are perfect, right? So we have to know our strengths and we have to know opportunities that where we can get stronger. So identifying that those are some opportunities to strengthen his ability to run the business and be more successful, that's really where we win. That's an example. So what that did is increase his presence on Google, right? It increased his overall reviews. I think he had maybe a few reviews now. We're looking at, a dozen or more. Um, we've increased his presence now in terms of Google without paying hundreds of dollars for SEO clicking. We've increased his SEO, of course, with his website design, but it's not like we're focusing on SEO campaigns. We're doing organic things to boost the relevance in the search in this market. If that's a good example, does that serve as a good example for you?
It is a great example, yeah, because I can feel from your story that you're becoming not only a mentor but also a teacher, and also at some extent like a psychologist, right? Because these people are really invested in the business, and sometimes for them it's very hard, or it's very hard for you to separate them from the business and understand things in different ways, because it's very emotional, the relationship that they have with their business. And let me
Right.
ask you a bit about that. A lot of the business that you work with, salons, caterers, wellness studios, right, are exactly the ones the big consulting firms don't bother with, right? So, what do people miss about helping a
Man, so there's balance in life, right? So there's pros and cons with every client that you've dealt with. We've worked with very large organizations, very well off, multi-million dollar, I'm talking 40, 50 plus monthly million revenue coming in. We worked with those larger organizations in the past. It's great because it essentially, it does help with your managing your workflow and taking care of our staff as an organization, but it is very much more rewarding on when you're working with clients that, as you said and mentioned, that they're kind of trying to figure it out as they go along. So it's not always about the numbers with a larger organization where it's very much decision based off of what the analysis is saying, versus working with a smaller firm or a solopreneur where you're helping them kind of navigate some of the things. And I didn't think about this until you stated it, but my minor was psychology in college, right? And early child development and things of that nature were my focus, my concentration. So maybe that does play into it, but ultimately understanding the things that trigger and motivate us to be successful in our endeavors. That's really what we like to kind of focus on and support. So there's a little bit of coaching, as you mentioned. I'd say, more than anything else, it's a lot of information giving. We identified early on, and I kind of overlooked this, but early on in my transition from saying, okay, we're working with insurance agencies and let me go into consulting. One of the first things that really sparked my attention and I started focusing on was the success rate of businesses and their access to capital, and diving into the Dun and Bradstreet process and developing business credit versus trying to run a business off of personal credit, and understanding that even the mechanism of personal credit does not support a business because of how a business has short-term needs. Right. So, 80% of businesses were failing the first 2 years or so. And I believe it was 76 or 78% of business owners, small business owners, did not know how to access or build business credit. So those numbers correlated to me, and it was an immediate understanding that the biggest separator, the biggest gap creator between the larger organization and the small organization is access to resources, whether that be tools or whether that be information in terms of how to find those resources. So I'll I'll digress now and go back to the question. So the biggest thing that we really do with that small business, that startup, that entrepreneur, or that mid-sized organization that's looking to scale is really bring them resources and information to help them create the roadmap. Versus just having the goal and developing the goal with people. Anybody can say, oh, this is where you want to be. Okay, here's your goal. There it is. But how do you actually develop a roadmap that is A, pliable enough to be changed when things come up and it doesn't break, but B, actually fits the personality and the person that you're working with to help them get and achieve their goal, right? Because everyone learns
Yeah,
different and everyone
mhm.
responds different to things. Mhm.
100%. And I think you point out beautifully the difference between the companies who transform and the ones who stay stuck. So basically, the ability to grow and the curiosity to learn and to implement things is super important around, of
Yeah.
course, capital, marketing, operation, right? And that's why this like advisory and fractional advisory and consultancy adapted to their needs is very important. And I understand your edge that because you blend strategic consulting with software tools and execution coaching and not just advice, and basically this gives a little bit more on advantage to the clients that you work with. Um, okay, I am always curious how this travel founder to founder, the clients who turn out to be the best fit for CBC, how do they usually find the way to you?
Very interesting question because I just went through this with our first intern class that are specifically the three that are working in our marketing space right now. The majority of our clients over the last 5 years have either come from a live lead system that we were working with or an actual referral of previous work. It hasn't been until I'd say recently where we really focused on increasing our social media presence and increasing and making changes to our website. It's primarily been through systems that we were working and relationships that we built. Um, just being able to capture individuals that are searching for the services that we offer, right? There's several companies out there that do it, and it's all focused all around data and and engagement. So one of our, I guess we joke around and say like our side quest is to develop something that would give us that direct access. But as of now, yes, we've been really working with some of these, I guess you could say, just systems that identify people that have a need that we offer.
That makes sense, and it's good that you also experience travel that route and not only stay on the referral side. That is very warm, but at the same time is not as predictable. Yeah. Let me change the topic a little bit and talk about AI. You call yourself an AI enthusiast and you're building
Yeah.
an AI analytics platform into the firm. So quick plain English first, right? So for anyone listening, what's basically using AI to crunch up business numbers and spot what to fix? Where do you
Okay.
say
Yeah.
your consultancy itself is in the AI curve right now?
So I would say in terms of where CBC is in the AI curve, about maybe 3.5 years ago is kind of when we really started getting into it, utilizing, ChatGPT and some of the other language learning models. And it began to become really exciting to kind of see, how we can better prompt and how we could utilize these tools. And after that interest kind of peaked and we began to use it in some of our daily processes, whether it be our weekly meetings or some of the additional projects that we needed to get done. It's just the speed of execution, right? Where I could spend, or I could have someone spend, 3 days going through the process of utilizing our normal sites, going through our normal, I guess you could say, data collection centers. If we were doing a business plan, let's say, right, this is how it started. Sorry for rambling, but if we were doing a business plan, a part of the business plan is doing the market research, right, and understanding essentially what opportunities are out there based on available market share and things of that nature. So that was tremendous for AI and from us on AI, because what it did is it allowed us to execute on some of that information by plugging in our trusted resources. We were able to enhance the data that AI collected. We focused for about 2 years in kind of working on our version, our GPTs, our tools that were generated that had specific functions and specific personalities. That was kind of the beginning, was starting out in that chat GPT space. And then from there, it kind of got into us then looking at software as a service, and the software as a service would have AI built into it, right? So having AI built in, the learning models where it's essentially automating some of the workflows, to now being able, like if you call my line now and we're in the meeting, our AI attendant will answer the phone, can schedule a meeting, reschedule a meeting, send an email. It literally works alongside of us. So by harnessing AI for the good, right, and the betterment of people and their goals and their dreams, right? If it's your vision to open a nail salon, or if it's your vision to, run a meat packing company, whatever your vision is, right? There's a way to leverage AI to assist, right? To assist in following up on that schedule, to following up on those invoices, to following up on that email automation, to have a nurtured relationship with a client that may be texting and it may be 2 o'clock in the morning and you can't respond because you're asleep, but your AI attendant could give them the information that they're looking for. And it's not because they're a bad client and it's 2 a.m., but they may be on their way to Australia and their calendar is completely different than yours, even the time, right? So just better positioning our clients, utilizing and working with AI versus seeing it as something to stay away from.
Right. And when you look at your small business you serve, are they ahead of you or behind you or all over the map with it?
I would say that they're primarily behind us. Um, look, when you're running a business and you're focused, a lot of the a lot of the noise has to get ignored because you're locked in, let's say. And I see that there's a little bit of a delay in adoption in AI, specifically on corporations this last year, year and a half. It's kind of been shied away from. I do see in 2027 that there's a lot more adoption happening as the Q3, Q4 meetings begin to pick up. And, you're kind of seeing where the companies are heading now, and understanding that AI can be utilized in some of the ways that it can. And it's not going to replace jobs, but only enhance results. When you see the wave of data centers being built, you can only anticipate that adoption is going to continue to uh, incur. But to be honest, I don't know, Gabriel, I don't know if you remember some of the things of the past, but I remember when computers came out and it was like, oh, computers are going to replace people. And, I remember hearing about when credit cards were coming out and it's like, what? Right. Or don't put your credit card information on the internet. They're going to have your information. And right. So all of these fears, these false expectations appearing real have kind of hindered some of the adoption. But as we continue to move forward, and the more that we're talking to interested prospects and clients that are coming to us for support, we're seeing that that is changing and that adoption is going to pick up. I feel tremendously in 2027 and 2028.
Yeah, 100%. When basically you adapt and you produce and you change to humanity, there always will be a group of people who basically will be against, and other group of people who basically will run very quickly to adapt, right? And a small
Hmm.
business, of course, they have limited resources and times, and sometimes they just they're a little bit cautious, and also because they don't have the ability to learn and implement so quickly, sometimes they are lagging. So that's why they benefit with someone like you, like an advisor that can help them to navigate and implement very quickly. um, Let me ask you, because AI can split a business plan in 30 seconds now. So what the part that you think that AI still can?
So AI can complete a business plan in 30 seconds, but AI is going to give you the results that you request, right? So when it comes to getting the result that is going to help you achieve your goal, um, AI can fill the gap of, oh, I need a business plan quickly. But when you go to submit that to the SBA, will it have all the parts? You can have it set in SBA format, but will it be to the degree that you will get the funding, right? It helps to have someone that has experience, has worked with clients, understands what may be looked on or looked at by the financial institution, and more importantly, relationships, right? Relationships are so valuable. And although we can go in and customize our GPT or customize our AI personality so that it understands us, it doesn't necessarily have the, like, for example, a client's looking to get funding and, they're uncertain about certain things. I can talk to someone that's been in the industry lending for 15 plus years by going through my cell phone and tapping into that relationship, setting a meeting and having a conversation where that person could give the individual advice based off of what their company does if they're going through that application process, what their requirements are. Yes, AI can give you all of that information, but the relationship component is more important than just getting the result. And then having someone that's experienced to know how to navigate. If you have your business plan, then what? How do you, okay, this is how I submit it. Who's going to review it? What does that process look like? You can go into chat and get these things, but the reality is depending on the financial institution that you're working with, they may have their own standards. They may have their own requirements. They may SBA may require 5 years annual and 3 years quarterly projections, where the financial institution may require 1 month or 1 year of monthly expenses and some of those things. So, what I think having the relationship outside of AI, it's going to decrease, it's going to decrease waste, increase efficiency, right? By having that relationship, and then also just making sure that the resources that we do have and the efforts that we are putting out there can give us the biggest for the customer, the biggest ROI for them and their time and the distractions that they're dealing with so they can continue to run their business. I don't know if I answered that question.
100%, 100%.
Okay.
Yeah, that's great. And I'm thinking about that. Recommendations will you give to small business owners in order to integrate AI? I mean, think about a customer, an entrepreneur, or CEO that haven't, integrated AI into their processes because they don't know how to start or where to start. What recommendation will you give them? Would you give to them?
Um, man, I would say that just call us, reach out, schedule a meeting, have a conversation with us. We do not charge for our discovery calls. We can always talk it out, have a discussion, and then point someone in the right direction. That's kind of how we've built our business over the last 5 years or so, is by giving people information, helping them get into a better position. And the purpose over profit or transformation over transaction, a lot of times giving the person the right information will help them be better prepared to come back and be a good client, right? I can tell you, I've gone through and basically built a business plan because someone was in a situation but had opportunity and a couple $100, like a 10% or so of what we normally charge, because of the fact that there was such an impact. And seeing that 10%, 10x in the terms of the funding that they got to start their business. And because I did that, well, we've had a continuing relationship and, we'll come in on the quarterly meetings and, if there's things coming up or marketing and things, then they reach out to us because of the fact that we focused on the transformation over the transaction first, right? The same way that we want people to trust us as business owners and just do business with us and not shop the market, just do business with me, trust me, I can get it done. Well, you kind of have to do that with people as well on the other end. So if someone comes to us and they're not completely qualified or they're not in a position to handle our costs of the services that they need, if we can't figure it out, then we'll help them get into better position, right? If it's a funding situation, well, we can connect you with someone that can help you with your personal credit or whatever other, um, you know, bottleneck may be hindering you from qualifying for the funds you need. We can do the business plan, we can do the financial analysis, we can refer you to someone that can help you with your personal credit. If it's establishing business credit accounts and getting funding, we have strategic partnerships in place so that we can refer you to someone that we trust that won't just try to look at you as a quick paycheck. Right. But that'll actually build a case file with you and work you through getting to your goals. So, um, man, it's as simple as trusting a conversation with a person, right? Not relying 100% on AI because when you do, you're going to miss out on an opportunity to learn more about what AI can do for you.
That makes sense, and it truly shows your passion about helping business owners and building stronger communities, right? And this basically is a reason for the client transformation. And basically, thank you for showing this openness to help other businesses. Let me ask you something, because you're running CBC, you're on board, you're in your community. I can feel that you have been helping entrepreneurs through that process. So you don't lack for things to do. So what keep you doing this work with?
Hmm. I would say it's definitely more spiritual than um I would say it's more spiritually backed, right? In terms of doing good works, right, and helping people. If I went to like the old school guys, I'd go back to Zig Ziglar and what Zig said in the insurance space is, to truly achieve what you want in this world, help as many people as possible achieve what they want. right? Because in turn, they'll be able to take care of you and help you achieve your goals, right? So, and he didn't use all of those words. I kind of paraphrased and added my own understanding of it. But that's really what keeps me going. Above all else, man, it's an absolute blessing to be in position to be able to live my life within my own schedule and within the schedule of the client's demands that we have, right? Um, spending 8+ years, asking to go on vacation or asking for days off to spend time with my family, or, being in situations where I have to miss out on things because I'm not home with the family. I'm out at work, and, being able to kind of analyze those things and make the decision to be away from my family versus being obligated. That's really what drives me, because entrepreneurship is tough and owning a business is tough. The same as working in corporations, it can be tough, right? So it's all about your perspective, and it's all about, what's really in your heart. Because if you're doing things because you think you're supposed to versus doing them because you feel and know that you're called to, it really makes a difference.
Thank you for sharing this inner motivation and this personal drive to help businesses to achieve freedom like the one that basically you're achieving by conducting your consultancy. Lafayette, it has been great the way you frame it, transformation over transaction, strategy into systems, outcomes, or it didn't happen. I think that's a clear, accountable take from someone who's actually done the operating, not just the advising. Where can people find you and Crawford Business Consulting if they want to learn more? Or
Yeah, absolutely. So our website is cbconsulting.site. So C for Crawford, B for business, and consulting.site. So cbconsulting.site. It's the same on our LinkedIn and our TikTok and other social medias. But our toll-free number is 866-912-1990. Again, that's 866-912-1990. So either by going on our website and scheduling a no obligation consult, just a conversation, just got to get on the calendar. But by scheduling a conversation, or calling in and scheduling, or potentially catching someone in the office or available by their phone, is always a good thing as well.
great. And that's a wrap on this one. Big thanks to Lafayette for laying out what really takes to turn a strategy into systems for the small businesses that keep our communities running. So get ready to implement AI. Lafayette will help you. If you get something of it, do me a favor, hit subscribe and drop a comment in the chat. So yeah, and basically looking forward for the next episode of Signal and Insights. Take care, everybody. Bye bye.